completely am okay with innovating a product line, not stealing ideas and claiming it's theirs, but innovating something that has been stagnant over the years. But what I think is going to happen in our industry, and we're already starting to see it, is the innovators are going away because they get copied right away. So the more innovation that gets stolen, it crushes the true innovators in the industry.
This is All Things Fitness and Wellness, uniting industry thought leaders and fitfluencers on the mission to inspire innovation and encourage people to live a life fit and well. On today's episode, I'm joined by Tyler Danen of FitBench, whose viral LinkedIn post has been making waves in the fitness industry. Viewed by over 50,000 people, Tyler's post called out a troubling trend, the rise of copycat products that undermine genuine innovation and threaten the livelihoods of true creators. We're going to unpack what drove him to share such a bold message so publicly, explore how his journey from race volunteer to working with Ironman shaped his perspective, and dive into how these experiences led to the creation of FitBench. If you're curious about what happens when someone takes a stand for originality, this episode is for you. Before we get to it, be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcast episodes weekly featuring industry thought leaders and influencers. I'm your host, Chrissy Van, and this is ATFW. Well, Tyler, first of all, thank you for joining me on ATFW. You and I had the opportunity to meet each other in Germany at FIBO, and I'm so glad I connected because, as we alluded in the intro there, you really sparked a lot of conversation in the LinkedIn sphere. So we're going to learn a little bit more about what you do today and also dive into a little bit about why you decided to take to a public platform to stand for what you believe in. But first of all, I know things are busy, so thank you for carving out the time and space.
No problem. Yeah. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to chatting with you.
Well, I know FitBench is a brand that many are familiar with, but for those that aren't, can you walk me through a little bit about the story of how it came to life and what exactly the product or idea was?
Sure. Yeah. So to back up, I started out in the industry. Actually, right after college, I moved down to Clearwater, Florida, and I volunteered for a race company, like a road running race company.
And, that's cool.
Yeah,
what a volunteer gig. What does a volunteer race company situation look like?
I was doing a lot of the marketing. I was just helping them out with marketing and stuff here and there. It's called Beta Bay. But that led me into a job with Ironman, the triathlons.
Very cool.
So I worked for Ironman for 2 years. We put on the 70.3 series down in Clearwater, Florida. That's the championship series, and ran that for 2 years, and wanted to move back up to Wisconsin. And I found a job with Woodway treadmills. So one of our family friends was working at Woodway at the time, and he got me the job. And I ended up being the Texas, basically Southern rep for Woodway, and I was with them for 10 years.
Gotcha. More on the sales side then at that point?
Yeah. Yep.
Nice.
Yeah. So I was in sales with Woodway, and fantastic team. I was one of the last sales guys to get hired, and then actually one of the first to leave after 10 years. So they have some really amazing guys there.
Yeah, that's such a huge testament to a company when people have tenures like that, right?
Yeah, it's incredible. But in 2016 is when I came up with the idea for FitBench. And I was always traveling, taking different boutique studio classes. And I was in actually a Barry's boot camp class when I came up with the idea. And basically what happened is I grabbed the too big of dumbbells and get smoked out immediately and have to do the walk of shame past all the pretty girls. And then they're on to a new exercise. And then you have dumbbells all over the place, and there's tripping hazard and everything. So that was my light bulb moment for FitBench, really, is I wanted to create a bench that had all the tools you needed under one bench. And then it kind of took off from there. We started playing around with the ideas and kind of had it drawn out. I still have the drawings, but we had it drawn out and actually fabricated. A fabricator in Tennessee made up this welded up piece of metal. It was pretty pretty horrendous actually. And we almost,
part of you is like, that's not what was in my brain.
yeah. We almost killed it at that point because we're like, oh, maybe this isn't going to work. And I went to a friend of mine, Sean Gagnon. He owns the Abs company. And I was like, hey, what do you think of this idea? And he's like, you know what, let's take another run at it. And he and I flew over to China, and we met with some engineers over there and found a really good factory. Actually, that's later on in the that we found a good factory. The first factory ended up knocking us off and shipping stuff out the back door. But
so this is a theme in your career.
Yeah,
Later, but there was a little foreshadowing almost.
yes, totally. Unfortunately, but Sean helped me with learning the ropes over in China. We went multiple times and had several prototypes brought over, and then we introduced it to the market at URSA in 2017, and it was a hit right from there. It was super exciting. It was one of those moments like, you made it, right? It was incredible because there was just rows of people. We had basically a boutique class in the Woodway booth at that time. I was still an employee, and just people were 5 deep taking pictures of like, holy cow, this is really cool and innovating. And then we brought it to FIBO, and it's the same feedback, and it just kept going from there. So I ran it as a side gig for 2 years at FitBench, and it just kept going up and up and up. And I still was trying to figure out how to sell treadmills at the time. And, it just got to the point where it got too much. And the owner, Doug Bearline, who's a great friend of mine, he came to me. He's like, hey, what are we doing here? You got to pick which path. And this thing was my baby, and I thought it had legs. So I decided to quit my job and take a run at FitBench full time.
How beneficial was it having, as an entrepreneur, deciding I'm going to do this on my own, because you mentioned you had the individual that kind of taught you the ropes in China, and then to have an employer that's willing to watch you flourish? Like, when it comes to a leadership standpoint, how important are those qualities and those that you surround yourself when you're trying to bring a vision like this to life?
Yeah, I mean, everything. I don't think we could have done it without them, honestly. It was the mentorship from Sean Gagnon that helped me throughout, and he still is a great mentor of mine, a friend. If it wasn't for Doug Bearline and the team at Woodway being so supportive of what we were doing, we probably wouldn't be here. Honestly, they helped us kickstart our idea and see if it had legs, and now they still support us and still great friends and resellers of our products. So can't thank them enough, honestly.
Yeah, it has a tremendous impact, especially when you see something so clearly. I mean, you have to follow that through when lightning strikes. And I love that the idea happened in a fitness class. That flow state that we get in fitness, it is wild.
Yes.
Sometimes you have to pay attention to the ideas that pop through while you're there. The thing that I find interesting, though, because you mentioned you go to China, you start to learn the ropes, you get burned by destination number one, you find a better fit. But when you and I met at FIBO, I mean, it's still going on, but tariff discussion was really at a fever pitch at that point in time. And it's not that it's gone away, but obviously it was a really top of mind topic for everybody. And you were sharing that you made the decision to manufacture in the United States ages ago. So how does that happen? Why was that the decision that you made?
Yeah, I mean, we've always wanted to produce in the U.S. That was always kind of a dream of mine, just personal passion. I came from Woodway, and they make everything actually 20 minutes down the road from us. They make everything in-house as well. So I had that upbringing in the industry in my career, really, to where American manufacturing was just kind of the path for me. And I didn't realize really what that was until we actually started doing it. It was always part of the goal to manufacture here, and I'm really glad we did it. It took a lot, but
yeah, well, it took a lot. I mean, how did you feel when all these announcements have come out this year, and then you realize, kind of have nothing to worry about on that?
Yeah, it was the original thought. I mean, it was on the backside of COVID, when we couldn't fly over to China. It was, we had a couple quality things that we were starting to see in our product that was really frustrating me, and I couldn't go to China to correct them easily. So everything was taking too much time. And we wanted to make some changes to the product as well. It was time for the next evolution of FitBench, of our design. And that was when we decided, let's pull the trigger and we'll start investing in the future of our company and manufacturing here. It was just the tariffs that we just lucked out on, quite frankly. I mean, it was bound to happen eventually, I think, with tariffs and some trade wars going on. And I think they'll sort it out eventually. But the timing has definitely been perfect for us.
Yeah, no doubt. And I'm sure it was a lot of work when you made that transition initially, but there has to be a source of pride when you're creating something that's a homegrown idea and then ultimately becomes homegrown. And with that pride and all the work that goes into bringing a vision to life and having a scrappy version where you're like, is this idea in my brain actually something that can take off? And anyone that's run a business, and our audience is obviously all enterprise level, they know the blood, sweat, and tears and time that go into bringing visions to life, which means it can be an exceptionally large pain point when your big ideas are then threatened to a degree. So you hop on LinkedIn. You have a viral post about the blue blazer men at the HFA show. For those that missed it, because as I understand, the post is up no longer. Can you summarize what happened? What was the seed, and what had you start typing on the keyboard?
Yeah. So my frustration and just kind of anger towards the situation stemmed back from when I was at Woodway. I was one of the team that would test and give feedback on the original Curve treadmill, and the company that we won't name was notorious for taking those ideas and basically making them theirs. So it stemmed back from my Woodway days, and it happened at this show, and it probably it happens at most shows we've been to, and I just was sick of it, quite honestly. And someone needed to say something. Everyone feels it and felt it and knows it's going on, but nobody's saying anything. So my wife is actually our COO. She and I work really closely together. And when we talked about it, I slept on it that night, and in the morning of, I was like, here's what I'm thinking about doing. What do you think? And
Can I pause you and just be like, what did you witness at the show? Like, again, protecting all parties involved, but what was it that you saw happen?
Yeah, so we actually went to lunch. We set our booth up as everyone is setting everything up on the last day, making everything look pretty. And so we actually weren't in the stand, the booth at that time. It was we were next to the Woodway guys, and they captured some pictures of the CEO, leadership team, and engineering team of the company that we won't name. Taking pictures, just taking measurements and pictures and everything, lurking in our booth, looking at our products. And they sent pictures to me of these people. So we were out to lunch. If I was there, maybe they wouldn't have been so aggressive at it. Maybe they would have, who knows? But so that was a decision, like, all right, this is something's got to stop here.
And so you witness this, you percolate, you have the sleep, and then what happens next?
Yeah, my wife and I were at breakfast that morning, and I kind of had this little thought in my head just to keep names out of it and kind of make it a little funny, but serious as well. And I showed her the post. I was like, all right, what do you think about this? And she reads it, she laughs a little bit. She said, fucking post it.
That is a supportive COO and a supportive partner. Yes.
Yeah. Because she's been with me this whole time too in the career, and she's seen it happen, and maybe at the end of the day it wasn't the best decision. Maybe it was. It got a lot of feedback, got a lot of views, over 50,000 actually. It went crazy. So.
Well, let's talk about some of that feedback, because exactly that. 50,000 eyeballs. And for those that are familiar in the LinkedIn space, it's really different from other social media ecosystems. The conversation is really networking with your fellow peers and professionals. So I'm sure you got a multitude of opinions. So what was some of that feedback? Did any of it surprise you?
No, it didn't surprise me, but what did surprise me is the volume. I'll get on calls today and they start the conversation with, man, that was the best post I've ever seen. So I got a lot of attaboys because everyone was thinking it, everyone was feeling it, and maybe not everyone can say what they're saying because maybe they're not in the same position as I am, or whatever. So it was really positive to see that the rest of the industry is feeling the same way, and I knew it. I just didn't understand the volume, even internationally, which was wild. A lot of international folks saw it as well. So,
well, I think it's refreshing, especially in that platform. It's not inauthentic. But to your point, I think because obviously people have to protect the best interests of their brands, depending on who they're working under, you have to be quite careful of what you say, how you say it. And at the end of the day, when someone comes on and is honest about anything and there's an emotion behind it, that's what moves people. That's actually incredible content.
Yeah.
And I think that platform out of any of them is a little bit limited. It's a lot of proverbial high fives all over the place, maybe some light idea sharing, but I think it would have been really refreshing for a lot of people to say that I have felt that, or I have seen that, or I'm enraged for you, or maybe there's another list of people that are like, I don't agree. Because when it comes to copycats, I mean, I guess to a degree, people are vulnerable to that unless you've put patents everywhere. Like how does one deal with that and avoid yourself running into that?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, patents are expensive to get, but they're more expensive to defend, way more expensive to defend. So it's one of those things, like you could protect yourself like crazy and you're still going to be in legal battles because patents are, if you actually don't defend them, you could lose them. So there's also that. We do have patents. We have several patents and more pending. On different parts of our product and other products. But our take as well is outmarket them and innovate like crazy. So we're always changing our product and making it better. And I believe, I'm biased, but I believe we have the best product in the industry in terms of our category. We do have several imitations out there. But I still firmly believe that we have the best and the best quality and craftsmanship and story. And, it's like the innovators are usually the ones that thought of everything along the way and learned some things along the way that they would change, that if someone were just to replicate it right away, they have no idea why we did it. And then they find out the hard way in the long run.
No, without a doubt. I'm curious, from the post, was there any backlash that you had to deal with?
Yes, I received a terse cease and desist from that company, which at the end of the day, they didn't really have anything. But I quite frankly just didn't want to spend any more money or lose any more money to this company. So I decided to take it down. It wasn't worth it. I thought it saw enough people. It got enough screenshots and forwards and you name it. So I think it did the trick. It did its job.
Well, and I would think as well, those that are your customers, they would end up, if it resonated in that way, want to support you even further. Like you started your origins in marketing, and it is far, far, far from the reason why you posted this. Obviously, like this is because, something was witnessed in action where you're like, this isn't okay. And it's prevalent in the industry and I want to address it. But at the same time, I think a byproduct then of those that heard it and it resonated and they're your customers, I would think that they would want to support your brand even more, even if there are other players out there that are trying to imitate. They're going to want FitBench because they want to support the person that actually stood up for the things. But kind of on that note, like, what impact do copycats have in the industry from a broader perspective? Because as you mentioned, you're not the only individual that has had to deal with this. Like, how does it even impact innovation that we see in this industry?
I think it's tragic, and it's a very serious thing that our industry should look at. Now, I think that there has been, and I completely am okay with innovating a product line, right? Not stealing ideas to where stealing ideas and claiming it's theirs, but innovating something that has been stagnant over the years. Okay, so I'm fully okay with that, of people making something better. But what I think is going to happen in our industry, and we're already starting to see it, is the innovators are going away because they get copied right away. So the more innovation that gets stolen, it crushes the true innovators in the industry. And at some point, we won't see any new products anymore. I mean, look at HFA or URSA, whatever you want to call it. But over the past couple of years, it has we've seen less and less. There are some really cool, unique products in the technology space, but it has been less and less over the years in terms of true innovation of the fitness industry, or in terms of products. So I think that eventually it's going to die off, or there's going to be no more ideas, or innovators are going to say, "Screw it, I don't want to be spending all this money and have my product just stolen." So
For
I think
sure.
it
It would be
will be
so hard to
detrimental.
remain incentivized to put that idea out there because how disheartening. And, as we touched on, and as you saw in the feedback, you're not the only one that has experienced this as an innovator and wanting to put a new solution out there. So, for those that are dealing with similar solutions or situations, rather, how can they protect their work? What would be your best advice? Because, as you mentioned, I mean, it's difficult to do so, but what would be your best advice to protect themselves as best they can?
I mean, obviously, you got to have some patent protection, some IP protection, at least starting there. And I think always innovating the product line, staying ahead, right? Staying ahead of any competitors that could be nipping at your heels. Form amazing partnerships. We have some really great ones in the industry, and instead of them creating their own product line, we decided to partner with them and create something really cool in collaboration. So that's a really great way to potentially grow your space, right? Grow your innovation. So yeah, it is tough, but you just got to out market them and stay ahead of them. That's the biggest thing.
Fair enough. Well, you had that fateful day in a Barry's class where an innovation light bulb moment poked in your head and you brought it to life. Now it's 2025. The industry is changing rapidly. What's next for FitBench? What's the climate? What are the goals?
Yeah, so we brought manufacturing over 2 years ago from China. So that was a big thing for us in terms of innovation of our company, not necessarily our product line. We did innovate it at first. We did change our product line, but now we're really focusing on manufacturing and scaling with some of our key customers that we have that we are manufacturing like crazy. It's been wonderful. We also look to innovate new products. It's hard to have a home run every single time, especially when you have a groundbreaking product like the FitBench that just was a winner right off the bat. So we are working on some new stuff that I'm actually really excited about. That's going to be really different. That's something we've never done before, but it's going to be cool.
I can see it on your face, but given the nature of the topic, it would make sense why you won't even drop a hint
Yeah,
of what it would
yeah,
be. That's very fair given what's
yeah.
transpired.
Sorry,
But
yeah. We'll talk more when we're a little bit closer. But yeah, we got something cool in the pipe.
well, and it must be so nice. Like, bringing another product to life, it must feel so different from those days where you had every step was a learning step. Like, how different is it for you going at it this time around compared to the janky metal, not sure if this is actually a product first iteration that you experienced?
Yeah, It's a little easier because we have some money behind it, right? So that when we started out, we started FitBench with $1,000.
Wow.
Yeah, and we bootstrapped it along the way. My wife and I bootstrapped the entire thing. So it was pretty wild starting out because we were literally like, all right, do we invest $500 to get this photo shoot, but we think it'll get us here. So that was kind of hard. And now obviously we're a little bit better positioned to where we can make some of those easier marketing decisions right off the bat.
Well, we're excited to see what you put together. When it comes to the fitness industry itself, you've worked in the space for quite a long time, and I'm sure seen many different things happen along the way. I know that you mentioned before we hopped on here, you were just traveling in Puerto Rico with other Planet Fitness franchisees. So from the industry perspective, what's exciting you most as you look forward? Because I think there's just this general feeling and a lot of conversations at FIBO that there's this momentum that's building in the space.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean for you as you look forward?
It has been an exciting momentum. That's a perfect way to put it. The last few years has been all post-COVID. We're still trying to dig out, but it feels like our industry is now coming back roaring, and it's going to keep growing into different spaces. The medical space, the rehab space, obviously is huge, not going away. And just fitness in general is just going to keep going. So that's really encouraging, just looking at the future and what FIBO has put out there, what HFA has put out there in terms of the studies and what they're doing with lawmakers at Washington, D.C. I think they're doing some pretty incredible things. So I'm really excited about that and what it'll bring for just fitness and wellness as a whole for our entire population. I think it's definitely a hot topic right now of fitness and make sure you're fit and well, and it's cool to play a part in that, and what is it going to be the next 5-10 years from now is even cooler to think about.
Yeah, without question, especially with how rapidly technology is evolving and the industry really seeming to be in this aggressive adaptation mode. That's just my own perception and outside perspective, but it seems like there's been periods in this space where not necessarily stagnant, but the formula could rinse, wash, repeat. And there just seems to be this collective hive that's like, let's aggressively adapt and be that leader in preventative healthcare. And it's what we need. So, totally. Tyler, thank you. You caused such an it's one of the most interesting things I've seen in the LinkedIn space in a while. Yeah. I love following social media trends. And I was like, oh, I saw it and it stopped me in my tracks. I loved combing the comments feed. I mean, at the end of the day, there is a bravery in being able to put yourself out there in those spaces. It's quite vulnerable to be that exposed. And once it's out there, it's out there. To your point, even if you had changed your mind 5 minutes later, the screenshots have already happened. So I just want to commend you for being a really refreshing force in the space. And at the end of the day, it resonated with people for a reason. So I appreciate you coming on here to give us a little bit of the backstory.
Yes, thank you so much. Thanks for hearing my story, and I look forward to chatting with you in the future.
You've just listened to the All Things Fitness and Wellness podcast, hosted by Chrissy Van. Be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcast episodes weekly featuring industry insiders and influencers. Together, we're on a mission for everyone to live a life fit and well.